In March of 2020, Amazon fired Christian Smalls from his job at a fulfillment center in Staten Island after he helped organize a protest outside of his workplace. Smalls said that he did this to bring attention to unsafe working conditions at the start of this pandemic. Brother Smalls, Christian, how you doing, man? Thanks so much for joining me again.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I wanted to bring you on. We spoke at the start of this pandemic, and at the start of this pandemic, you made a lot of waves. And in fact, you became a primary target of Amazon because of your union efforts, your unionizing efforts, but also just, pointing and highlighting the fact that the conditions of workers in Amazon warehouse were atrocious and literally led to people catching COVID-19 and even some deaths. Can you talk about what you were working on then and what you're working on now with regard to this union effort?
Absolutely, yeah. Last year, as you remember, the height of the pandemic, New York City being the epicenter, I tried to be proactive instead of retroactive and protect my workers, employees that work underneath me in my department, in that entire facility from catching COVID-19. The company refused to listen. And as a result, 11 months later, you may have heard Letitia James has filed a lawsuit on my behalf. Over 250 of those associates at that facility have contracted the virus. And many of them came back to that facility within 7 days. So it just validates the fact that I was telling the truth the entire time. And, that somebody needs to be held accountable. So I'm glad that we're seeing that there's an investigation and also a lawsuit that's following up on that. So, where we at now, we're still trying to unionize. Alabama is the main focal point right now. I just came back from Alabama last week. And I think the media and everybody should be talking about that.
Absolutely. And speaking of Alabama, Bessemer, Alabama, Amazon workers are voting on whether or not to unionize. And on Tuesday, actor Danny Glover joined those workers in solidarity, where he was invited by a local news station. And this is what Danny Glover had to say about what's going on in Alabama at Amazon. We take a quick look at that. Yeah, here it comes.
Here to Birmingham. What brings you here?
Well, I'm here to support workers who are employed by Amazon, who have a very important vote at this particular moment, and that's to vote on whether they want to have a union. And I'm partial to that in the sense that I'm a big union supporter and certainly been a supporter an advocate for organized labor and unions since I was a child. My parents were union workers. My mother and father were at the United States Post Office all of their career, and each and every point of that, they were involved in the union as young adults until they retired.
Wow. So this is somewhat personal for you, I guess, with trying to convince people.
Well, I'm just trying to support them. It's certainly the fact that a union doesn't need me here to ordain or to champion its purpose. I've seen it work, as I said, in my own life, and seen it work as always around various other experiences that I had, whether it's with hotel workers or laundry workers or clothing textile workers, or all those places where I've been able to support auto workers, support unions. And it's one of the very great privileges that I've had as someone who has gained this visibility by on stage and television and films, but at the same time have a chance to support ordinary people.
Christian, could you speak to the significance of what's happening in Alabama? Like you said, you were just there. Danny Glover was just there last night. It is a massive movement, and it's a movement against a tremendously, unimaginably powerful organization by the name of Amazon.
Absolutely. This is probably the most important union vote probably since the 1930s, since the Great Depression. There was an economic collapse then. Last year, we seen that with in 2020, and we're still living in this pandemic right now. And right now, we have an opportunity for the first time in American history to have an Amazon facility unionized. And I think it will galvanize the rest of the nation. I think this will be an uprising for all unions across the nation. So once again, I believe this is probably the most important union vote on the table since the 1930s. And I think it's really important. It's just, if it's successful, that we can also use this news to galvanize and organize facilities all across the nation, which I plan to do. So I'm hoping that I have good news once the union vote is closed.
I want to bring my co-host Rebecca Azor into the conversation because, you know, as I look at what you're doing, man, and the fact that you personally have been a target of Amazon, right? The first thing they did was fire you. And then the next thing they did was a PR campaign against you. And you had to get help from the people. The people had to step in and speak to that real quick for me.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. You know, a week after I was fired, you know, Jeff Bezos and his top general counsel, you know, tried to run a smear campaign, calling me not smart or articulate, and ironically, make me the whole face of the unionizing efforts. So, yeah, that's exactly what I did. I founded an organization. I traveled the country for the last 11 months with my organization, protesting at every single one of Jeff Bezos' mansions. And here we are. We're still fighting. And one thing I learned from Amazon, a principle was called see, own it, and fix it. And I saw the issue last year, and I owned up to it. And I hopefully, when it's all said and done, I fix some type of issues that we had with that company systemically. So that's what I'm here for the long haul.
Well, that's definitely, Christian. Hi, how are you? That's definitely what I wanted to touch on as well, because it's interesting how they tried to put it on you when you decided to protest against the conditions that were there, saying that, hey, they're lying about the people that even have or that have tested positive for COVID. They have us in these conditions during the height of the pandemic. And all of the sudden, you know, they turned around and said they fired you because you were putting the workers' lives in danger, and that because of you, they were now testing positive, or they tried to put that rhetoric out there. How did you correct the story and make it yours and correct the narrative?
Yeah.
I continue to tell the truth. You know, the truth will set you free. And I told the truth from the beginning. And ultimately, as a result, now in this new lawsuit, you've seen, if you read the lawsuit now, 2 HR reps, the top HR of the building, and her BP, her business partner, wrote a letter in solidarity saying that I should have never been terminated. You know, they said that the termination was justified and that the quarantine policy was never clarified to me. And also, I never returned inside the facility when I protested. I was outside the entire time. So again, I told the same story from the beginning. And now it's starting to come to the light. You know, the truth is coming out there. And I think the people that were behind the scenes that had to sit in on that termination, they're starting to feel that it was definitely wrong, and they're going to speak up about it. And I'm happy to see that it's coming out now.
Yeah, and it's also because of your voice, right? You decided to take a stance against what was going on in there during the pandemic, although they tried to put that smear campaign out and said that you weren't smart, you weren't articulate. Indeed, you were. You know, you weren't doing this for clout. You were doing this because this was affecting you and the people that you were working around. How would you say that your life has changed in this past year with you doing the protest and you traveling to make sure that other people in these Amazon locations are
every mansion? You went to every mansion, Jeff Bezos? Man.
Everyone.
That's real G.
Bad boy.
On Google. You know, I mean, I'm pretty sure you got more of them, but we hit up a lot of them. And, you know, my life changed forever. You know, definitely couldn't imagine this a year ago. I actually just looked at one of my memories on like Snapchat. I think I was in the club popping bottles last year. So, you know, I just tell people I wasn't an organizer beforehand. I was a concerned supervisor, obviously a father of kids. And that was my main concern, my children and my family. But I realized it's a bigger picture and it's bigger than me. And, if nobody else would have did it, I don't think we would have got to this point. If I didn't step up, if I didn't continue to fight back, I don't know how long workers would have went unprotected, number one. Number two, once again, I don't think Jeff Bezos would have retired this year. So it's a lot of
he did
that happened.
Yeah, I was say like he's the heat that's getting ready to come to Amazon. Jeff Bezos is like, I'm out of here. He stepped down for Amazon, but we still know where his mansions are, and we know where his money is coming from, right. And we know where all those facilities are, especially in Atlanta. They're everywhere. And in the last time we spoke, let me get off that train of thought because it takes me somewhere dark. The last time we spoke, you said that you also had difficulty convincing some of the workers at the warehouse to participate in this. A year later, and all the stuff that I know that they went through, do you think their minds have changed? And have you heard from any of them? And have any of them come that were hesitant before? Or any of them standing in solidarity with you now?
Yes, we definitely gained a lot more support. Workers definitely seen the issues. They actually lived it. They're still going through it as we speak. There's still workers still contracting the virus, unfortunately. We had a worker who just died a few weeks ago from Virginia. Wow. He was a COVID tester. Pushan Brown, I had to raise money for that family. So we're still living with the same issues I was fighting on day one. But we definitely have a lot more support now, even international support, from Amazon workers over the world. So, I'm hoping once again with the union vote in Alabama, I'll have some good news after March 29th when the vote is closed, to come back up here in New York and start, organizing that building again in the Staten Island. Part of the lawsuit is actual reinstatement. So is it possible they reinstate me? That probably
better
my
position first... only. Better position only. We ain't taking nothing less, baby.
Yeah. Nah, they needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Nah. Listen. Before we get out of here, because we're coming up on the half hour mark, but I want the people to support you. And tell them. Is your GoFundMe still up? Matter of fact. Right. So tell them about where they can financially support you and where they can follow you, and anything else you need them to know about your work.
Absolutely. Yes. Follow me on Twitter at @shut_down Amazon. No surprise there. My organization at TCOEW on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TCOEW. The GoFundMe is on my Instagram page. And the link is in the bio, Chris.Smalls_.
Yeah. Christian Smalls, brother, thank you so much. I just want to say this while you're on air, before we turn it over to the DJ to take us out of here. Rebecca, if you want to get a last word, obviously it's your show. I'm just filling in. But man, one thing that I came to terms with over this pandemic was that the revolution will not be led by podcasters. It won't be led by YouTubers. Ain't going to be led by people like me. It's going to be led by brothers and sisters and non-gender conforming individuals like you who are actually out there with your lives on the line right now in this moment, delivering packages to the rest of us privileged people who have the luxury of staying this pandemic at home. So I salute you, brother, in solidarity.
And also, Christian, like I said, they tried to count you out. It's just the theme for the week. Today, they tried to literally count you out, they tried to count you out back at that time, and you were just a supervisor that was concerned, but you pulled back up and you was like, well, who ain't smart? Who's not articulate? I'm fighting for people. I'm doing my thing. And you just been winning ever since. But the fact that you're doing it, by helping people, that is the biggest part to me. And when you are genuine like you, it's going to keep on coming. Like your heart is really, truly there. And I think that that's why it's important that people see this and they support you. It's just going to grow, and more power to you, brother. More power to you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Solidarity.